It's always a very sad thing when someone that you love passes away. Your heart hangs heavy with grief and pain, and you wish that you could speak to them just one last time, if only to know that they're okay. Well, in these next stories, there are some people that have claimed they have spoken to their deceased loved one via email. But are these stories true? You decide on this episode of Peculiar Occurrences.
You've got mail.
Ever since the telephone was invented, there have been stories to go along with it of people receiving staticky phone calls from their deceased loved ones, hearing faint voices of their deceased loved ones on the telephone. And ever since the modern age has arose, there has been sort of a new theme arrive. Now, there are a few people that have claimed that they have received email from their deceased loved ones. Now, I know what you may be thinking. Well, Lilith, you know there are host services that you can sign up for and make pre-written emails for them to send out to your loved ones after death. And though that is one of the theories for the upcoming stories, there's a lot of proof that suggests that that's not what this is. Now, our first story comes from unexplainedmysteries.com from a user named Kempy that hails from Wales, UK. Kempy starts off this forum post explaining that her father had passed away in January of 2011. And although all his accounts and computer had been shut down, put away and such, that she had recently received an email from him that she did not believe to be a hacker or spam of any kind, because the only thing that was within the email was a picture of her little nephew in his car seat. And she wanted to know if anyone else had ever experienced anything like this as well. Now, after a few replies, Kempy goes on to go into further detail on the email and the situation surrounding it. She went on to explain that when she first received the email, she took it as a warning to her nephew. So the first thing she did was hop on the phone and call her brother to let him know what had happened. Then, later that evening, she was riding with her 6-year-old son in his car seat, much like the picture of her nephew in the car seat, when she noticed a shadowy figure of a head that looked like it had her father's hair, the way he had worn it back in the 70s, shadowing over her son's car seat. And about that time, before she could really react, her son said, "Mommy, you forgot to fasten me." Well, Kempy quickly pulls over to fasten her son up and makes a call to her brother to tell him what had just happened. As she gets off the phone, she realizes that she made that call to her brother at 8:05 p.m. Her father had sent that email at 8:04 a.m. that morning. So the time in which this incident happened was exactly 12 hours to the minute. And she sort of took it as a warning. It made her wonder that if she had not pulled over, she had not gotten that email, she had not already been somewhat spooked by all of this and paying attention for signs of her father, if something bad could have happened, like a crash on the roadway. Then she went on to explain that she didn't receive any more emails until April of 2012, the very day of her mother's funeral. And all this email from her father said was the word Corey. Now, she went on to explain that her mother was a huge soap opera fan, and that her favorite soap opera was called Coronation Street. So she took Corey as being short for coronation and thought that perhaps this was her father's way of letting her know that her mother was safely with him now. Further down on the forum, there was a reply from a Andy Ford 26. from Blacksburg, South Carolina. He went on to explain that he had a friend whose husband had committed suicide. And shortly after his death, the widow, started to receive emails from her husband. The first one had explained to her that ultimately the medicine he had been taking at that time is what convinced him to commit suicide. After this email, the widow was so shaken she could not bring herself to open up any of the other emails sent to her from his account. Then further down on the forum, there was another commenter named Linda1 who claimed that they received emails from a friend who had passed away all the time. Only their emails are quite strange. The words seem to be backwards and there are no spaces in between the words. And that this had gone on for several years, starting sometime back at first with just one letter and then one word, and eventually worked its way up to full sentences. She claimed that she could ask her friend questions and then later she would receive the answer via email. Next, I want to go into a whole nother story that's not on this forum. This is actually a more famous story that had made national news on the BBC, the Daily Mail, and other publications such as that. But this is the case of Jack Froese of Pennsylvania. He had died of a heart arrhythmia quite suddenly. But then, 5 months after his death, out of nowhere, his good friend from childhood, Tim Hart, received an email from him. The email was from Jack Froese, and in the subject, it read, "I'm watching." And then the email went on to read, "Did you hear me? I'm at your house. Clean your fucking attic." Excuse my language. That's what the email said. Tim immediately went into shock because just before Jack's death, Jack had actually been up at Tim's house. They were up in the attic, and Jack was teasing Tim about the mess and dust around the attic. No one else knew about this conversation except for Jack and Tim. After Tim brought this to light, Jack's cousin Jimmy McGraw stepped up and claimed that he had also received an email from Jack. His email read, "Hey Jim, how you doing? I knew you were going to break your ankle. Tried to warn you. You gotta be careful." Jimmy McGraw had broken his ankle a week before he received this email on November 21st. A little over 4 months after Jack had died. And no explanation for these peculiar occurrences have ever been found. So what do you think about this peculiar occurrence? Have you ever received an email from someone from the deceased, or a phone call, or anything of that nature? Do you think what these people went through was really real? I want to know what you think down in the comments below. As well, I'm trying to hit 2K subscribers, so if you haven't yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button and share this out to all your peculiar friends. Help me reach my goal of 2K subscribers. I'm sure we're going to get there real soon, Peculiar Squad. Don't forget to like this and hit that bell so you always know when I upload. Make sure to turn on them notifications because, you know, YouTube's funny like that. Subscribing just isn't enough. And until next time, keep your eyes peeled for all things peculiar. Do 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 do.
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.